All right. Well, I am working on a few projects here in the office, and one of my projects that I've been really digging into lately is this topic of atheism. Now, as you deal with the topic of atheism and the reason why I have not dealt with it yet on the channel, part of it comes down to there is so much to say, I just don't think I can do it justice yet. The other issue that comes up is if you study out the Bible actually does not spend a whole lot of time proving God's existence. In fact, the vast majority of people, I think you could safely say through the history of the world, have believed in some sort of God. And it's really only with the advent of the modern scientific movement that basically thinks you can explain everything in a physical way. That's really been the time where atheism has become an accepted thought. I like the way Richard Dawkins put it, where he says, hey, evolution can make me an intellectually satisfied atheist. Up till that point, there just wasn't a way that the world could have come into being without reference to some sort of God. Now, here's the pattern I've noticed with some groups, though. There are a lot of people who they'll observe this fact that the more scientifically minded you get, the more atheistic you get. But it almost seems to be like once you get past a certain threshold, you almost come back around to the theistic mindset. And here's why. I am not an in-depth scientist. I am not an expert in any field. So I give you that caveat. But I've read a lot of people who are. I've researched a lot of people who are more prone to that type of mindset and behavior. And here's what you've noticed. When we understand the complexity of the world around us, it humbles us. Even evolutionists will say this. The humility that comes with saying, I am just this speck in this grand cosmos. But I think the evolutionist is going to come more of a humbling that basically says, I'm just a speck, I'm useless. The Christian or the theist is going to come with the humility of, wow, the fact that God would dare even care about me, that's humbling. Like this grand design, this vastness of what we've got around us, the fact that God cares about me is huge. And so as scientists come out the other side of this weird paradigm where it's like peak atheism and then it starts to drop off again, part of it is the starting to realize that the design and the creativity around us, even the beauty and the fact that we can observe the universe, like we are in the perfect spot to observe the universe. And as you put all those facts together, you start to notice a pattern. And some would say it was the God of the gaps. And if you don't know what the God of the gaps is, let me give you a really basic primer. God of the gaps is basically the idea that I don't have an explanation for it, so it must have been God. I think what we see now is the inverse of that, where instead of saying there's a gap I can't explain, it must be God, we are actually saying, ooh, everywhere else in the universe, like even down to a simple thing like a pen, I see this design, I see intentionality, I see that it is shaped to fit my hand. It's got the spring to kind of counteract the motion here in the back. Any one of these pieces falls apart and this pen refuses to work. And so the fact that you have something like irreducible complexity, you have a specified design here, even just an intentionality and aesthetic look to it. There's a beauty to a well-designed object. And as we look around us at the world, we start to notice that and we go, what is the natural implication of this finding? I think the most beautiful one is a lot of evolutionists will scream about the eye. You just go and you look and it's like, oh, the eye is terribly designed. Oh, the eye is this horrible thing. Oh, why did it? But the fact that there are fiber optic cables, and I use what we have to describe it, but the equivalent of fiber optic cables that allow the light to pass through the blood vessel layer that's in front of the retina. So normally your retina, you'd want it to directly hit the light. Like you want the light to hit the retina directly. But in the human eye, there's a layer of blood vessels in front of that retina. And so the evolutionists will constantly scream about how terrible that design is. But what happens is there are these fiber optic cables that actually allow the light to pass through the blood vessels and get the retina. So there's no damage to the sight. Like you can see just fine. And in fact, some scientists have actually said you need that blood vessel layer because it allows more nutrients to be fed to such an important layer, which is the retina. And so I think that's amazing because we would not appreciate the presence of a fiber optic cable if we didn't understand the concept of a fiber optic cable. And as you study out some of these things, and the more in depth we get with science, the more of this stuff we find. And the natural implication, the natural progress is, if this over here required design and required a designer, why wouldn't that? And so that's the first argument you could get into for why atheism is an illogical position. So guys, this is a new thing. I'm working through the topic of atheism, and so I want to take the time to kind of go through a few of the points for why I reject atheism, and I think it is perfectly consistent to do so. The next video, I kind of want to cover why I haven't gotten to this topic yet, and just dig in a little bit about how the Bible treats the topic of atheism. So tune in. This is the Janus Project. I'll see you guys later.